Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome to another recap episode here. Birds on a Blue Note. Got your captains here. I'm joined with RJ, and we are going to be going over this recent four-game series in Milwaukee. And without Willie, it was brutal as expected. Let's start off with game one here. We had Sonny on the mound, and as RJ and I were talking about before the episode started recording, the second Sunny started getting lit up, you kind of had a feeling it was going to be a rough series for us overall.
Say the
Um,
least.
yeah, only run production from us that game was the home run from Newt and everything. So he's starting to get things a little going, but really no positive takeaways other than that from it. I mean, bullpen held up.
Oh yeah, bullpen did mostly
At
did
least
the
in game
job.
one. At least in
Yeah,
game
in
one.
game one they did. I mean, that was another game where we had bases loaded early on, where we could have with no outs and he could have made a game out of it and didn't score. It's
Yeah.
incredible, really. Like you would think all these we've been doing this all year. It's almost impossible to be this bad with and not not scoring when you don't have outs and the bases loaded.
We had 6 hits, but managed to leave 10 men on base. You know it's a bad game when you leave more men on base than you actually got hits that
Yeah,
game.
I mean they tried to let us in the game.
They
Uh,
did.
our bats did not want to be in the game though. I
And
mean,
hasn't that been the
insert
story for
the
most
insert
of
the
the year?
Bugs Bunny like cartoon where he strikes out three batters on one pitch. It's pretty much the Cardinals' offense that game.
Yeah.
Um, it was tough. Like we were talking about as you mentioned prior. Like as soon as Sonny got lit up, he gave up three home runs, which is atypical of him. And he said so as much himself. He said I let too many over the middle. Got a little behind, had to force it. Yeah, it sucks. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the series, to be totally honest, because he's supposed to be our stopper. I mean, we were on a losing streak already. He's the ace, he's our stopper. Like Chris Carpenter was back in the day, like Adam Wainwright was back in the day. We had a 2, 3, 4 game losing streak. We knew that the streak ended if they were pitching. And that's kind of what we were hoping for from Gray in game one. And unfortunately it just didn't happen. I mean, at this point, and I know it's early, but you have to like just kind of look at it and be like, the Brewers are just a better team right now. And sucks, but it's kind of is what it is. But I'll let you get going on game two.
Yeah. Well, game two had Lynn on the mound, and Brewers had just called up Gasser. So, I mean, we all know the story. Brand new pitcher we've never
All
seen
tossing
before.
lefty.
Somehow we can't touch him at all and whatnot. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know he is a good prospect and whatnot, but we always seem to do this when we're facing a guy for the first time.
That's not even just this year. That's like the last 10 years of
Oh
Cardinals
yeah,
baseball.
it's it's been a
Historically, we can
franchise
never
killer.
seem to do it. I don't get it. We have players on this team who are toddlers on it. We're having issues hitting soft tossing lefties still and can't do it.
Yeah,
A whole generation later. It's crazy.
yeah. I mean, again, not really much production from the offense at all. Did a better job actually getting men in this time. Only left 4 men on base out of the wonderful 5 hits we got on the game, and uh, it just continues. And
Can't leave him on if you don't get him on. That's right.
these are games that you can't be dropping at the end of the day like that because I mean this is the team that's in the lead with us, and it,
Yeah. This is our chance to get back in the race, and we just shit the bed.
yeah,
I do want to touch on something real quick before we move on to the next game. It's kind of something that's been bugging me.
yeah, go
This
ahead.
whole back and forth thing with Libertor. What are
Yeah,
we doing? Haven't we learned our lesson with this by now? It's the same shit we did with Jordan Hicks. You're a starter, you're a reliever, you're a starter, you're a reliever. We don't know. Well, you're starting today. Next week, you're going to be a reliever again. I it's
yeah,
hard to be successful when, like pitchers, you know how pitchers are. They're like they like their routines. They're creatures of habit. And when you're constantly flipping someone from one role to the next role, back and forth every week, it's going to be hard to adjust and succeed in that environment. And like you saw here, he was doing great out of the bullpen for us for like the last month or so. And I said, all right, you're going to spot start. And then he starts, and they're like, all right, you're done starting. You're back in the bullpen. And he gives up runs. It like he was dominant 2 weeks ago, and then you fucked with his routine, and now he's not finding that success anymore.
Well, and I
We've done
mean,
this before too. I don't understand why we keep going back to doing this. It doesn't work
well,
out.
I mean, think about it. Rather than calling up Sem, they
Who's
call,
on
oh,
the 40 man? He's
yeah,
on the 40 man, and he's in AAA dominating. Like, why?
I
You're
know.
gonna fuck up your bullpen and your rotation now at the same time.
Exactly. And it's just perplexing sometimes when they're doing these things. Like you said, he's already on the 40. You don't really have to make a corresponding move because you're moving a guy to the IL so you can call him up without wasting any of his options. It's part of the benefits of throwing the guy on the IL is that you can call up somebody else from the 40 without having to do that and worry about wasting that opportunity. But I mean, it is what it is. And yeah, so now we're stuck in this spot where, Libby keeps, getting stunted, so to speak, in
And
his
he's supposed to start
development.
again today, right? Like, what are we doing here? He starts and he's in the bullpen, and then he starts and then he's in the bullpen, and then he starts, and
Yeah.
people talk about Jordan Hicks, and I understand not bringing back Jordan Hicks, and I also understand that we probably messed him up quite a bit, because he was a starter in the minors. We brought him up as a high leverage reliever, and he dominated that role. He wanted to start though, kind of like similar to like Rosenthal back in the day, but that never worked out either. Um, as an example. And then he came in one off season and essentially with like a week left before spring training and said, "Oh yeah, you're going to start this year." And he had no time during the off season during winter to like stretch yourself out to get ready for that. So then when he only had a few weeks to get ready to start and he didn't succeed because he didn't have the time to get ready to start, they moved him back to the bullpen. And then he
Yeah.
struggled at first. If you remember before we traded him, he struggled the first couple months of the season out of the bullpen. And then he got his routine going, and then he was dominant again. And then we flipped him for a great package, by the way. Didn't resign him. I thought we should have probably been in on him as a bullpen piece. I didn't expect him to start again. But the Giants said, "Hey, man, we're going to sign you and you're going to start. And you're going to have all winter to warm up and get stretched out and be prepared. And you're going to start." And he's been incredible.
I mean, a
It's
little bit of that came down to market availability and the Giants missing out on everybody else and
sure. Yeah, I know
Hicks
they were
being there
like on
cheap. So
Yamamoto too. And
it wasn't like people were targeting him as a starter in the offseason that,
no, they
you
weren't,
know,
but they did the right thing and letting him know early on
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah. When they signed him, they stated from the beginning he was going to be the
Going
starter.
to
So
start,
yeah,
right?
to your
Yeah.
point, he had the entire offseason to mentally and physically prepare for the offseason and the season versus, coming in being like, hey, I'm going to be a starter. I can throw hard every single
And in
time.
like three
There's a
weeks.
nuance to being a starter and using your entire pitch arsenal effectively versus being a reliever and really just needing to focus on, throwing as hard as you can and then mixing in your breaking stuff and
Yeah,
off.
for sure. And you got to get stretched out too and get used to throwing more pitches per outing. And, it's just, but we're circling back to Libertor. I got like, that was
Yeah.
just an example. But like, that's the same thing we're doing right now. We saw how it didn't work out recently. I don't understand how we're doing this again. It just blows my mind sometimes that like people making these decisions don't, it's like the insanity thing, right? You do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. But that's my rant. That's my mini rant before we moved on because Libby pitched that game and he gave up runs, and I wanted to bring it up before I forgot because I have the memory of a goldfish. So, uh, unless there's anything else you want to bring up about game two, we can move on to game three.
Nope. Moving on to game three. I had Gibby on the mound going up against Peralta again. And this one actually was kept pretty close. First time this season that Gibby has not gone all six. And a bit
Almost
unfortunate.
there.
Huh?
I said he was almost there.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah. No, almost there. I mean, had seven strikeouts, only two earned through it, but you know, they felt like they needed to get him out there.
Pitch
And
count was too high. He was over 100. I understand it, I guess. He's been
yeah,
so
again, they no damage was done until the sixth, and even then it was a 3-2 game. It wasn't until the seventh, and even then that pitch that Kittredge made, like
it's
sometimes
a
you
tough
just got to
one, right?
tip your cap to good hitting, man. Sometimes good hitting beats good pitching. Ultimately, like
And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I feel like he just kind of threw his bat down there and he got a good follow through and he lifted it.
yeah, I mean I would take that pitch every day. That location, give me that every day, Kittredge. Like you can't hang your head on that. You made a good pitch, and like you said, sometimes all you got to do is just our luck with
Throw the
BABIP.
bat head down there, see what happens, right? Like, hey
BABIP gods,
Goldie, are
man.
you are you taking notes? Like bat to ball.
The things that happen when you just stick a bat out there sometimes in this game, it's that's baseball for you
Unless you're on the
ultimately.
Cardinals, of
But
course.
that is literally the difference in the game, really. There
Yep.
is that go ahead 3-run shot. Otherwise, I think the bullpen locks the rest of the game down personally.
I mean, we had it set up the way we like, right? It's
And we had the pitch that we liked.
Yep.
He swung at the pitch we wanted him to swing at.
Yeah, just unfortunate. And like you said, it's just the way the season's gone.
Yeah. We got more contributions from Newt, so again, he's back starting to see things. The funk with the offense continues. 12 hits, 12 hits, 3 runs.
Not great. I mean, we keep harping
10,
on it. 3 runs or less in however many games. I've lost track. I don't have it noted down this time. It's
10
just
guys
depressing.
left on base. 10. 10 left on base. Double digits.
I mean, I guess, like you said, a couple small positives. Lars seems to be picking up the ball better. I mean, Gorman got an RBI double too. He had a home run the game before also, so hopefully he's starting to turn things around a little bit. So that's about it.
No, yeah. I mean,
Goldie
I'll get
looked
to
Goldie looked
there.
awful. He took some of the worst at bats I've ever seen from a major leaguer. And I'm sorry, Goldie, I love you, but like, did you see that swing? It's like he stopped halfway and then like, oh, okay, and then finished it.
Yeah.
And he's like a whole 2 feet behind the pitch. I can't explain
Some-
it.
it's something mentally's happening right now. That's the only way it's going through the locker room and affecting this many people.
Yeah,
Any
I don't know.
final comments on game 3 before we move to the bookend game?
Oh man, Gibson is building a nice trade value for us at the very least.
He is. And that
uh,
that extension, that option that he has,
it's gonna hold value too.
that holds great value because whoever gets him, if he has a shit second half of the year,
Club
so be
options.
it.
Define it. Yep.
You walk from him. If he has a great second half of the year, congratulations. You just got a discount number 5 for your
He's gonna
next
throw
season.
5, 6 innings every game. I mean, that's valuable. Like even if he's like you said, he's your number 5. Even if he shits the bed and gives up 5 runs every start, he's saving that bullpen over the course of a season is super valuable.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if he's saving an inning a start and he's getting 30 plus starts, that's 30 innings he's giving your bullpen. At minimum 30 innings, he's giving your bullpen a rest. And again, that goes a very long way for these relievers over the course of the year.
Yeah, and
When
we've
you're
talked about
throwing,
before, like throughout baseball, starters are going less and less innings too. To have a guy
yeah,
like that who consistently still gets you innings, I mean, there's not many of them left. So yeah,
no,
I mean,
and he signed at such a discount compared to the rest of the league just because of us jumping on the gun on him early, along with
yep.
Sonny and the rest of the
I'll give
guys.
Mo credit for that. That was, I mean, I was pretty skeptical. Not him specifically or Lynn specifically. It was a combination of the both where I was like, did we really need 2 of these guys? I guess it's fine though. It's mostly worked out. It's starting to teeter a little bit now, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, again, like even in this series, like I know you're gonna point because we did it when we were chatting, and you're gonna point to the like Lynn game and be like, yeah, he still gave up like a shit ton of runs, but the offense put up 2 runs. I don't care how good Lynn is that game. If you're telling me he's only gonna get 2 runs of support and neither of those runs coming while he's pitching, what's a starter to do, man? Like,
Oh
you feel
yeah,
like
I mean, I'm
any
not
little
gonna put it on
mistake
him
is going
either.
to get amplified and you're done for. And these guys take a lot of pride in that shit and whatnot. So,
I mean, we've talked a lot over the season too on doing these recaps. I've been pretty hard on the offense since the beginning.
yeah,
You're more the like, let's wait it out type of guy, and I think you're starting to come around now too on the offense. It hasn't come around yet, which is
it's still a statistical anomaly to me. This does not make any sense that all of these guys on paper not hitting at the exact same time. Like,
it is an
something just
anomaly, but
doesn't add up to
it's
me. And
still
like,
happening though is the problem. Like just because
I'm
it's
not.
not supposed to happen doesn't
I'm
mean it
just
won't
not willing to
happen.
believe that all of these professional guys that have spent their entire lives working their way up the
MVPs.
pro circuit just forgot how to hit this year. I don't get it. And again, there's going to be regression from the pitching, but that it's baffling and something needs to be done. But another conversation for another time.
Yeah, something should have already been done, but here we are.
Of course. So, for the final game, had Miles back on the mound, and I thought we were going to get swept.
Yep.
I was ready for that to happen, but thankfully these guys came out, and even with us getting into a quick hole, Miles picked his head up, went about his business, did his shit, got the win. Offense slowly came to his help. I mean, again, 11 hits, 13 men left on base. Even though we scored four, still 13 men left on base. These are just
Can't
consistent
hit with runners
inability to
on.
move guys across the bag. And that, like, we, I think in pretty much every game, we had more men left on base than the Brewers did. And give me a sec
And we
here.
got smoked the series. I mean, you look at it though. Game one, 1 run. Game two, 2 runs. Game three, 3 runs, and game four, 4 runs. So tonight, hopefully, we'll score five, and we'll finally get over that four. That's been like the blockade of this offense. Is like once you get to 3 or 4, that's the cutoff. We're done scoring. Like it doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
don't. Gosh, yeah. Oh, we
I
were just
mean,
ripping on Goldie though. He had a nice game. He had a home run and an RBI single. So
he did. Siani continued to have a hot series against the Brewers. He's really come on at the back end. I know some people are mentioning moving him up the lineup, but I do like having him there at the back end to kind of get somebody on base,
and if it
kind of
ain't
get some
broke, don't
momentum
fix it.
going as you hit the top of the lineup too.
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He seems to be comfortable there. And if he's gonna hit and he's gonna play stellar defense, just don't mess with it. Right? We don't have many good things going for us right now. Don't
Yeah.
mess with it. So, um,
Gorman continued to heat up a bit too this series. So, we did start to see some guys starting to get the swing of things. But again, it, not scoring men when they're on base. Like everybody's trying to be the hero ultimately and go up there and hit the home run when we just need a single. Just hit singles,
make
get them in.
contact. Like even just we've had how many times have we had like runners second, third, or bases loaded, 1 out, no outs, and don't score at all. It's just all you need to do is put the ball in play, and you can't, or they'll pop it up. Uh,
They're looking for their pitch instead of taking what the pitcher's giving them ultimately. And that's not going to work at this level. You can't be looking for your pitch because the guys know what your pitch is usually. And so they're going to stay away from that. These guys are smart enough to know what you like and dislike.
I feel like every team that plays us right now too knows that we're like in a mental funk together as a lineup. So they're not gonna pitch anything, and you see it. They're not pitching anything close to the middle because they don't have to. We'll just
Yeah,
swing it anyway. I,
there's no
I mean,
reason
yeah, we
to.
won the game though. Jojo, Kittredge, and Helsley did their thing in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. It worked out at that time.
Yeah.
Helsley's building himself quite the trade value this season too. Maybe, possibly. I think we should trade him because relievers are very fickle. I love him. He's a great piece to have on a team. But if he can get us like a Kobe Mayo or like a Keston Hierstead from Baltimore, who they said they're looking for high end or high leverage relievers, and Helsley's one of the names they circled. Um, you have to, right? Like if the season's lost at that point, you almost have to.
I mean, you have to, but at the same time, how much are these teams that want to when it all really going to be willing to give up immediate piece? It's going to be something that we might have to work
Well,
on. We're
that's
probably going to
that's
have to
the thing
trade for
with
like,
Baltimore though. Like Kobe Mayo doesn't have a spot right now, and he's just kind of waste. He's ready, and he's just kind of wasting. I mean, I'm just picking one guy just because it's a guy I've looked at and a guy I like, but I'm sure there's other teams like that. So, probably shouldn't be talking about the trade deadline yet, but that's kind of where we're at in the season, right? Like it's just
yeah.
depressing. Um, I did want to talk about the pitching a little bit as a whole, uh, before we drop off here. It's kind of fallen off a little bit during this losing streak before we finally won. ERA, we're now 21st in baseball, 12th in the NL as a staff, 17th in baseball in WHIP, 8th in the NL. So about average in the middle there. And 24th in average against 11th in the NL. So it's there. We said that the pitching was not going to hold up the way it has all season long, and we need the offense to turn around. The pitching kept us afloat, or tried to keep us afloat for this first almost 2 months of the season. The offense did not do their part. Now the pitching is kind of teetering a little bit, and the offense still isn't doing their part. So it's tough. What do you
Well,
do?
and as a pitcher, again, it mentally wears on you if you think every time, hey, if I make a mistake, it's so much easier to go out there as a pitcher and be like, hey, I know my team's gonna support me with 6, 7 runs, so I'm gonna freaking do whatever the hell I want in the box. And when you do that, you can be very deadly.
Well, yeah, you're
But
more comfortable.
they're they're so worried right now because even Gray's like, hey, if I give up 2 runs, how do I know that the team's gonna put up enough to support me? He's thinking at every time, like, look at his record. He's thinking I have to go out there and be an ace every single day and let up no more than 1 run. And that, as a pitcher, that sucks. That really freaking wears
Yeah,
on you.
I
And
mean,
it's that, like we've talked about a lot of times, baseball is this mental game. If you're in your own head and you're even like, even if you don't doubt yourself, if you doubt your team's ability to support you, that can go a very long way. And again, I'm not saying that there's like bad blood in the clubhouse, but it wears on you if you think you have to be the hero every time. The same goes for the hitters too. If Goldie and Nato are going up there every time and being like, shit, I got to hit a home run, when in reality they don't, like
well, that
it
was
pulls
last
them
season.
back.
Up until the deadline where we punted on the season, we were the 7th best offense in baseball, and people didn't think so because we had our struggles still. But
Yeah.
we were the 7th most productive offense in baseball.
Last year it was the pitching that lost us all
Yep.
the games.
Yeah, exactly.
We
It
were giving
sucks.
up 7 runs on average a game, it felt like.
Well,
And
how the turntables, right? Just
and
can't
that's the crazy
can't
thing.
win right
Again,
now.
on paper, like I would trade our roster for all but a couple handful of rosters in the league. I don't think we are the best by far, anywhere near, but we are the best in the Central. I would happily have bet. I would say the next closest would have been the Cubs, especially after they re-signed Belly and everything. But
And they got Imanagi, who's been
but I
phenomenal.
mean, but he's a pitcher too.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So I'm taught
line.
apologies.
Yeah,
Our hitting, our lineup, I would have traded that any day, for what we had. And like that's the crazy thing is again, somehow we are magically still in this. We could be like a few other teams that are, 10 plus games back and completely out of it. We are still in the race, but it is on the edge of darkness, man.
it's bleak.
Like
Yeah, there's.
have
I don't
we
see the
have
light
we
at the end of
dropped
the
that
tunnel.
game? Have we dropped that game against Milwaukee? I would have been willing to say that we shot ourselves in the foot and we're dying out. But getting that one game back does help keep us in it, but we got to take series like this Angels series where, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to go into Anaheim and take all three games from that team.
Shouldn't be, but we also
Shouldn't.
should not have lost to the White Sox. Also, should not have lost to the Tigers. Shouldn't have lost two to the Mets, who are reeling. Um, yeah, like we said, change should have already been made. I listen to lots of St. Louis sports talk radio, local radio here, and they were talking today on the radio. I just wanted to bring this up really quick. I plug in BK and Ferrario. Maybe they'll come on the pod someday. They said if we get swept by the Angels, is this what actually finally makes the team force sweeping changes? And I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, no, because why? If losing to the White Sox doesn't do it, a historically bad White Sox team, what makes losing to the Angels be the nail in the coffin, right? It doesn't.
Later in the season, but I don't think it ends up being it either way. But it being later in the season does have more of a weighted effect with where we're
But you
at.
can't wait too long if ownership, or I guess front office, still has the idea that we need to contend this year. And I don't know if they
Well,
still believe that, but they told us that's what they were trying to do this offseason, especially when they signed three starting pitchers. So
true, but again, like, and this is the thing, anybody that's claiming that they saw this coming, yeah, I could have seen some regression in the offense and stuff like that, but not this. Nobody saw this. Everybody thought, if anything, that was going to be our downfall again, it was going to be the pitching. We would be having Lance give up 6, 7 runs, Gibby give up 6, 7 runs.
but innings, yeah, that was a joke, guys. I'm like, but we're getting innings. It's like,
Exactly. The comments that I had to deal with every time was being like, guys, they are coming in to get innings. And oh, innings, innings, innings. Thankfully, it's shown to work. Because,
innings, 8 runs, but there's still innings.
but I mean, the thing is like, if they're not getting that support, the whole argument behind that was the offense was expected to be averaging 5 runs roughly again most nights.
I mean, look at the series against the Brewers, though. I told you we scored one and two and three and four. That's 10 runs in 4 games.
Yeah.
That's an average of 2.5 runs per game. You're not going to win very
That's not
often
going to
like
win you
that.
anything
Yeah,
ever in
like
this
I
sport.
have some updated offensive numbers because I'm sure people are going to want to hear them, and I'm circling them as I'm talking about them. Tied for dead last in home runs, still with the White Sox. Like I said prior, historically bad team. We are 28th in average at 220, 28th in OPS at 639, 29th in RBIs at 130, 29th in runs at 136, 27th in on base percentage at 298, and 29th in slug. And on top of that, we are the worst pull hitting power team in the StatCast era of the last 10 seasons of baseball. So 30 teams a year times 10 years, 300 teams on that list. We are 300th. It's incredible, right?
Yeah, and we'll actually be getting more into that later this week. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us. So, um, we're going to be diving more into some of these offensive woes, pitching, all that sort of stuff more in depth. But
Yeah,
it's
tune in for
just,
that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
it's, I, I knew eventually as a fan, the pendulum was bound to swing back down to awful. I just did not feel like after 30 years it would be this awful again. But here we are back in a place where it's starting to feel like it might be worse than the 90s. I mean, the only difference is I still see a lot more potential in our roster than some of those teams that we had, like Eli Marrero and whatnot, back on the team. But I mean, it's rough, and like you said, something has to happen soon. They're definitely losing a lot of the support for the fans, but again, they've already sold over 70% of tickets for the year before the season
Yeah, and
started. So they get their
you heard
money.
DeWitt's comments.
They
Only
get
the
their money one way or
diehards show
another.
up to a losing product. You're a casual if you don't support the team with your wallet, even when they're bad. I'm rolling my eyes.
Well,
um, yeah, I mean, you just kind of. I'm looking. I'm gonna count the season as lost. Sorry, call me the casual, but I just with this offense the way it's performing, like last or dead last in everything that matters, and the pitching kind of regressing back to the mean a little bit. It's the Brewers are good. The Cubs are good. They're good teams. You hate to say it, but they are good teams, and we need like a seriously stellar June, July, August to get back into this race. So I'm just kind of looking at players that I think, hey, maybe if he plays well, that's a good trade piece, and we can hope to build for the future, right? Because that's one of the frustrating things right now is that like so this didn't work out this year and it didn't work out last year, but we also don't have a plan for the future. So that needs to get figured out. Like I said, Goldie's got 1 year left. People talk about Arenado as a trade piece. I don't think we would trade him, but maybe. I'm looking at guys like Helsley. I'm hoping Carlson hits a little bit so he builds some value. I'm hoping Edmund comes back and hits a little bit so he builds some value. These guys that are not long term pieces anyway, you want to see some good returns on. We were talking about Kyle Gibson. He's been pretty good most of the year. Lance Lynn, even. I know these are guys that wanted to be Cardinals, and you don't want to trade guys that want to be Cardinals. But at the same time, if it's a 1 year deal, I think they kind of understand, like, hey, I'd rather be on a contender.
He knew what he
Um,
was getting into ultimately. But I mean, that'll wrap it up for our episode today. We could probably go on about these woes, but that'll do it for our recap. We get ready for tonight's wonderful game against the Angels. We'll catch you guys later this week. Thanks again for watching and have a great day. Take care.